You know, you're an avid NFL fan when, even when the NBA finals are going on, you're still thinking about the NFL. I can't help but think in these beautiful readings, the gospel today, it's like the NFL draft for Jesus, right? Like, he's drafting his team, and you're like, maybe not. But I was going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it, whatever. It's like, with the first overall pick, Jesus Christ selects Simon Peter, fisherman, Galilee. You know, it goes on and on and on. And in an NFL draft or any team draft, you're going to draft the best, the fastest, the tallest, the most gifted people with the greatest potential to succeed. That's how it works in any sport. And what's so fascinating is, as Jesus is naming these people, I wouldn't say these are like the best and brightest of their time, the most politically savvy, the most well-spoken, talented. I mean, you would expect like, wow, Jesus is really going to wow us with who he's going to pick here. And then we get these 12. Let's look at them. Simon Peter, he can easily get over his skis. Easily. He's overly confident. Oh, Master, wash me all over. Oh, Master, I'm never going to deny you. And then at the moment of truth, drops the ball 3 times. And then he's losing his temper. He's a hothead. This is your first overall pick? Betrayal, pride, self-reliance? Well, maybe round 2 will be better. James and John. Okay, these are the 2 that are constantly asking Jesus, hey, so when we get, to the new kingdom, can I be number 2 and he be number 3? What do you think? I'd love to have a seat of glory. Or they're the ones that are comparing themselves, right? Like, who's the best among us? I think it's me, They're power hungry. Whiff. All right, we'll move on. Matthew, tax collector. If you've seen The Chosen at all, you understand how profound of a statement that is to say he's a tax collector. Okay? He's hated. He collaborates with the Romans, who they saw as enemies. He's abusing his own people. He's greedy. Whiff. Thomas. Look at that image over there. The doubting Thomas. Yes. Okay, that's great. I'm happy you all saw him risen from the dead, but I'm not going to believe until I see it. Nope, bring him here. When I put my finger in his hand marks, then I'll believe. He's skeptical. Whiff. And then you've got, I won't do all of them, but last one here. Simon the Zealot. So in the gospel, it said Simon from Cana. That's not Simon Peter. This is a different Simon. Simon from Cana, a.k.a. Simon the Zealot. The Zealots were a group of Jewish people who were extremists. And they were trying to overthrow the Roman government by any means necessary. Violent revolution, extremism. So here you go. Here's your draft class. You ready for this? Betrayal and pride, power hungry, greedy, skeptical, and extremist. Why? Could you not have done any better? Could we not do better? You're going to choose ordinary, flawed, clearly flawed people to deliver the most important, the most perfect, the most infinite message of the gospel. I don't know about you, but that seems a little hypocritical to me. Now, what's interesting here is Archbishop Fulton Sheen. So think he was kind of like Father Mike Schmitz, but back in the day. A lot of people would come up to him and they would say, I can't go to church. You Christians, I'm not going to Catholic church. You're filled with hypocrites. You preach this perfect message of love, and then you all sit there and you're just as bad as the rest of us. Here's what he said. You ready for this? He would say to them, well, you say you don't go to church because it's full of hypocrites. I say, you're right. But come anyway. We've got room for one more. Doesn't that just speak the truth here? Even about these men. Here's what Jesus is revealing today about the church. The church is not some museum of perfect people. Hey, Joe Blow from the street, come on in. Come see all the perfect people we have sitting in the pews, or in this case, chairs. No. This isn't a museum where you get to come tour perfection. And neither was it with the apostles. It's a hospital for sinners. It's a place where people who know they need God come to him, and he gives them the strength that they need, the grace that they need. That's the key. So human flaws should never be an excuse, either in leadership or in the pews, for someone to abandon the faith. But here's the key today. You have these men. I only listed 5. We could have done a deep dive on all of them, but I won't. You're welcome. Clearly, Jesus understands that these are compromised characters, shall we say. He knows that. But what's so fascinating is, why did he choose these men? Because he saw potential in them. Let me say that again. He saw potential. He saw, even in their weaknesses, something in them. He noticed something in them that he wanted. Good. Maybe even they didn't see it in themselves, and he wasn't discouraged by their weakness. What did he see in them? Peter, was he prideful and self-reliant? Yep. But did he also have an ability to lead others that was just amazing? You know, you can imagine him on the side of the fishing shore, just barking orders, you know. James, John, grab the net. Let's get the boat. Let's go. They're responding to him. He's got this leadership. He gets stuff done. Or even at the Last Supper, who's the spokesman on behalf of the 11? Peter is speaking on their behalf. He's leadership. Jesus saw that, and he called it forth out of him. Or John, right? Was he ambitious and power hungry? Sure. But who's the one who rested his head on Jesus' heart, the Last Supper? Who's the one that God saw, Jesus saw, as having a potential to have one of the most deep prayer lives, mystical experiences? The one who was called the one who Jesus loved? Look at this. Jesus saw in him this capacity for spiritual engagement. What a beautiful thing that he called that forth. Matthew, tax collector, greedy as the day is long. Yep, he loves money. But he gets known later as Matthew the evangelist. Evangelist, sharing, disseminating the good news, sharing it, amplifying it. As a tax collector, that obviously has negative connotation, but that also means he's an organized person, right? You wouldn't be chosen for that job unless you had your stuff together. And it would have been rare in this day and time for someone to know how to read and write. Obviously, as a tax collector, you'd have known how to read and write. He clearly wrote the whole Gospel of Matthew. When Jesus is looking at him, yes, he sees his flaws, but he sees potential. He sees something in him, even if Matthew himself doesn't see it. And now he's been able to communicate to the most intellectual, to the most uneducated, back in the day, the beautiful message of the gospel. Thomas, doubter, skeptical, stubborn, all the above. But here he is, this man with a restless curiosity. He's like that kid, the 2-year-old kid. Mommy, why? Mommy, why? Mommy, why? Jesus, why? Jesus, why? Jesus. He's constantly asking questions. But does Jesus see that as a potential to unlock? Yes, I need that. I need someone who's constantly going to be asking those deep questions about our faith, who's not going to be satisfied with just a whatever, just because, but actually prayerfully wrestling with them. And then Simon the Zealot. Yeah, was he extreme and violent? You bet he was. But did Jesus see that as a man with a heart who was going to go 100% into anything and everything he took on? He saw that potential and he unlocked it. Now, why am I telling you this? What's the message for us? I don't know about you, but I kind of probably fall into the category of these apostles. I'll be the first to admit I am not perfect. I've got a ton of weaknesses. If you drafted me in the first round, that'd be a head scratcher for the people at the home base of the team. They'd be like, what? But how often do we focus on, both in ourselves and in others, weaknesses? We see it, and then we just disregard them. We get discouraged by our bad qualities, and we lose hope of ever becoming better. When actually, God is looking at you and me, and there is potential. There are good qualities that we need to not only harvest, but we need to name it. If you see a good quality in someone else, as a Christian, we talked about a couple weeks ago when you're at Walmart, you should be comfortable to pray right then and there in Walmart. I would say as Christians, this is rule number 2. When you are at Walmart, Target, McDonald's, whatever, if you see a good quality in someone, name it to them. Affirm them. Now, it sounds cheesy. It's like, why would I'm not going to do that. It sounds really weird. I remember thinking that. I'm like, are you kidding me? We do this in seminary, right? Guys would be able to write a little message to someone, affirm another guy at a good quality that they have. And at first, I'm like, it's kind of cheesy, but, whatever, we'll do it. What's funny is I would go into guys' rooms. There'd be stacks of those little notes from years ago still sitting there. Do you know how much that means to have someone look you in the eyes and to name one of your positive characteristics? Cindy Hoffman, you are one of the most pleasant, joyful, and peaceful people to be around. You are humble, and every time I'm with you, it's like I'm the only person in the world, which is a quality that Mother Teresa, John Paul II had. It's very saintly. Simon Johansson, you are one of the most courageous people. I've seen you on the playground. I've seen you at your house. When someone is not doing something right, you have the courage to stand up. And your brother Statler, you are one of the best football players I've ever seen. I have never once seen you talk smack. You're gentle. You're humble. You're peaceful. I could go down the row and name this in people. People need to hear that. And so my invitation for you today, yes, are all of these compromised candidates, are all of us in a certain sense hypocrites? Yes, but what's one more? We need to call out the good that we see in one another. Jesus sees potential in people, in each of us, and we need to be his mouth so that he can bear fruit for his kingdom. That's my challenge for you this week and always.